This story is of a very beautiful village named Los Llanes in South America in 1980, where there is greenery and farms all around. Near one of those farms, a boy named Maso was staying at his uncle's house during the holidays. People often used to sleep early in the day, so everyone slept after eating dinner in the evening. Maso had laid down on the bed, but he was not able to sleep. He was just looking at the fan on the ceiling when suddenly he heard a very loud sound of animals mooing. When he got up and went outside, he saw that the sound was coming from a nearby animal shelter where there were many cows. Damaso looked at the sky, and the entire sky was covered with dark clouds. He thought that maybe all the cows were scared of the coming storm, so he went to them to take the cows to the inner stable. And with great difficulty, he started taking the cows to the inner stable one by one. But Damaso had never seen the cows so restless. Due to this restlessness, it was becoming difficult for Damaso to take them from there. Heavy rain had also started. With great difficulty, when he sent some of the cows to the inner stable, he started smelling a very foul smell of meat. As he was sending more cows inside, and the number of cows was decreasing from there, the smell was increasing. When only 5 or 6 cows were left, he saw that the blood-soaked bones of an old cow were lying there. Seeing this, Damaso froze there and started screaming loudly, but before that, he could escape from there. Before he could run or do anything, he heard a sound from a distance. Amidst the heavy rain, that sound coming from miles away was so terrifying that Damaso's soul trembled on hearing it, and on hearing it, Damaso understood that he was going to die today because that sound was the whistle of El Silbón, which meant that El Silbón was coming towards him. Damaso had heard many stories of El Silbón. He remembered how in his childhood, his relatives used to tell the story of a man who had encountered El Silbón. According to the story of his relatives, that man was also going to a function on his horse late at night from a similar field, when the horse's foot slipped on something in that big forest field. When that man got down and looked, there was a deer bone lying there, from which the eaten meat was still hanging. Before that horse rider could understand anything, he heard a soul-stirring whistle from a distance. He tried to lift his horse, but it was too late. He heard the sound of something big jumping on a tree a little distance away from him. That horse rider wanted to run away from there, but then a bone hit his head with force, which broke his head. The horse rider started screaming and asking for help, but it was of no use because a terrifying 19 feet tall man was standing in front of him with the face of death. He had a hat on his head, but his body and face were like death. That horse rider had never seen such a terrifying creature. He had a sack full of bones, and he started taking out bones from that sack and hitting the horse rider without stopping. The horse rider kept begging for his life, but that man started taking out bones from his body and eating them. Next morning, while grazing cows, some villagers found not the horse rider, but his dead body, which had turned into a skeleton. It is said that that 19 feet tall skeleton-like man is El Silbón, and he keeps wandering in that area even today. This story was going on in Damaso's mind, and before he could run away, suddenly a 19 feet long shadow formed on the ground, and then a man taller than that shadow came out, who was wearing a straw hat and his flesh was hanging from his body, which was cut from all sides. This man, who was more than 19 feet tall, was none other than El Silbón. That man started walking towards him. Blood was dripping from the sack on his back. The sound of bones clashing was getting louder and louder. Damaso's heart was beating faster. Damaso ran from there to save him, and he realized that El Silbón was chasing him by climbing trees and jumping from one tree to another. Damaso kept screaming, but El Silbón came and stood right in front of him. He extended his terrifying long hands, on which his own cut flesh was hanging, and tried to kill him. Just then, there was a sound of a dog barking. Hearing this, El Silbón came running in fear and disappeared somewhere in the air. When Damaso looked, his pet dog was barking there, and who probably came there after hearing Damaso screaming. Damaso himself believed that if his dog was not there that day, then there would have been no blood in the bag hanging on El Silbón's back. Damaso would also have bones. After that night, Damaso kept thinking about El Silbón. He asked his relatives and other people living nearby about the story of El Silbón. What they told him was much more scary than what happened to him. People told him that the story of El Silbón was absolutely true. according to which a spoiled boy lived with his small family in that area in the 18th century. Since that boy was the only child in that family, his parents and grandfather used to listen to everything he said. One day, that boy asked his father to bring deer meat for dinner, after which his father went out to hunt with his hunting rifle and a sack. When his father did not return home for a long time, the boy became very angry. His mother gave the boy a very sharp kitchen knife for his protection and told him to go and find his father in the forest and bring him back. When the boy returned, his father was not with him, but there were pieces of meat and some organs and bones in that sack, which he gave to his mother, and he asked to cook the meat of the deer. His mother was feeling strange while cooking the meat inside the sack, and she started getting suspicious. So the mother of that boy told her fear to the grandfather of the boy. On hearing this, his grandfather took the boy outside and tied him to a tree and started hitting him hard with a whip until the boy told the truth, a truth which was very terrifying. The boy told that when he found his father in the forest, he was empty-handed because he could not hunt the deer. The boy got very angry with him, and in that anger, the boy killed him with a knife lying near him, and with the same knife, he took out his flesh and cut the rest of the body into pieces, filled it in his sack, and came home. On hearing this truth, the grandfather of that boy started hitting him with a whip so hard that the flesh of that boy's body started hanging from his body with a crackling sound. After that, grandfather poured chili and wine on his body and untied him from the tree, put a big sack made of his father's flesh and bones on his shoulders, and left 2 terrible dogs behind him to make him wander forever. It is said that from that day till today, the soul of that boy started wandering in the name of El Salbon. Almost all the people living in that area believe that they have definitely encountered El Salbon at least once, who sits in the trees and whistles in a unique way, and attacks like an animal whoever roams in the fields late at night. It is said that he is only scared of dogs, and that is why people in all the houses of that area have kept dogs. Damaso was saved that night because of his dog, otherwise he too would have become the victim of El Silbon today. Friends, if you like this urban horror legend of El Silbon, then to see more such urban horror legend stories, subscribe to Dark Domain and keep watching heart-wrenching horror stories every week.